everyone. My name is Glyza Hermosa, Bichod student, and we're going to discuss about El Filibusterismo, the second novel of Jose Rizal. Filibusterismo is written in Spanish, also known by its alternative title, The Reign of Greed, and in Tagalog, Ang Paghahari ng Kasakiman. It is the second novel written by Philippine national hero Jose Rizal. Rizal completed the revision of El Filibusterismo while he was in Brazil. He started writing this novel while he was in Calamba and continued working on it in London in 1888. Some parts of the novel were written in Paris and Madrid. Nonetheless, the manuscript was completed on March 29, 1891. This chapter is focused on the second novel of Jose Rizal, which was his sequel on the Noli Tangere, o ito yung kadugtong ng Noli Tangere. Next is Jose Rizal in Ghent. Rizal left Brussels for Ghent on July 5, 1891. His decision to move to this University of Belgium was prompted by some reason. The cost of living was lower. The cost of printing in Ghent was cheaper than in Brussels. To escape from the enticing attraction of Petite Suzanne, owing to his limited funds, Rizal lived in a cheap boarding house with Jose Alejandro as roommate. He met two compatriots, both studying engineering in the world-famed University of Kent, Jose Alejandro from Pampanga and Ediberto Evangelista from Manila. The publication of the El Filibusterismo. After settling in Ghent, Rizal searched for a printing house which could offer him the lowest quotation for the printing of El Filibusterismo. Fortunately, he found the F. Van Lofres willing to publish his novel on installment basis. In order to defray the initial payment for the printing of the El Filibusterismo, at dahil wala na siyang mapagkunan, sinanla ni Rizal ang kanyang mga alahas para masustentuhan niya ang pagpapatuloy sa pag-imprinta ng kanyang nobelang sinulat. Rizal became desperate because his funds were running low. He received some money from Basa and from Rodriguez Aris from the copies of Morga's Successos sold in Manila, but these funds were also used up. Rizal sent a letter to Basa from Ghent on July 1891. Written on the letter was, "I have already pawned all my jewels. I live in a small room. I eat in the cheapest restaurant in order to economize and be able to publish my book. Soon I will have to stop its publication if no money comes." August 6, the printing had to be suspended as a result feared because he could no longer give the necessary funds to the printer. Until his friend Valentin Ventura in Paris came to the rescue with the financial assistance extended by Ventura, the publication of the book was completed on September 1891. Rizal shipped to Hong Kong all copies of the Ghent edition, which were smuggled into the Philippines, except those copies sent to his friends in Peninsular Spain. Next is a comparison of the Noli Tangere and El Filibusterismo. Ang Noli Tangere ay nangangahulugang, "Huwag mo akong salingin" o "Huwag mo akong hawakan." Ang El Filibusterismo naman ay mula sa salitang filibustero, nangangahulugang taong kalaban ng mga praile. These two novels differed in many respects. While Noli Tangere is a romantic novel, a work of the heart, and a book of feeling, El Filibusterismo is a political novel, a work of the head and a book of the tooth. Another point of difference between the two novels is in terms of their dedication. While Rizal dedicated the Noli Tangere to his motherland, while the El Filibusterismo was dedicated to the memory of Gumburza, Noli Tangere, published March 21, 1887 in Berlin, Germany, while El Filibusterismo, published on September 18, 1891 in Ghent, Belgium. In terms of length of the novel, the Noli is longer since it consists of 64 chapters. On the other hand, the El Filibusterismo is shorter as it consists of 39 chapters. One common trend in both the novel, however, is the awakening of the Filipinos to the idea that they belong to one nation, to make them realize they have a motherland to love. Both novels are focused towards the seeking of reforms in our society during the Spanish regime. Rizal advocated faithful reforms in the Noli Me Tangere through Crisostomo Ibarra. On the other hand, Rizal advocated a revolution in affecting reforms in Filipino in the El Filibusterismo through Simon. As pointed out, both the El Filibusterismo and Noli Me Tangere were good novels from the point of view of history. One reason for the aforementioned claim was that Noli and El Filibusterismo depicted the actual condition in the Philippines during the time of Rizal. Moreover, both novels were instrumental in awakening the spirit of the Filipino nationalism, which paved the way for the outbreak of the Revolution of 1896 and the disintegration of the Spanish colonial empire in the Philippines. And that's the end of my topic. I hope you learned. Thank you very much.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Ako po si Christiana Digno mula sa BSE Matri at ilalahad ko po ngayong araw ang nobelang El Filibusterismo ni Dr. Jose P. Rizal. Sa isang ilog Pasig, mayroong isang bapor ang iniikot ang lugar. Ang nakasakay sa bapor ay sina Doña Victorina, Don Tiburcio, Paulita Gomez, Isagani, Padre Florentino, Basilio. Kabilang si Simon sa mga yaman dahil kilala siya bilang prominenteng alehero o gumagawa ng mga alahas. Nang makababa rin si Basilio, unang pinuntahan niya ang puntod sa San Diego ng kanyang namatay na ina, si Sisa. Nakilala rin ni Basilio si Simon bilang Juan Crisostomo Ibarra. Nang makilala ni Basilio si Simon, tinangkang patayin ni Simon si Basilio upang hindi mabunyag ang kanyang sikreto. Ngunit pinigilan ito ni Basilio dahil parehas lamang sila ang kanilang kahinatnan at tais ni Simon na parehas ang kanilang objetibo na maghiganti laban sa gobyerno ng mga Kastila. Tinanggihan ni Basilio ang mga suwesyon ni Simon hinggil sa kanyang plano. Ang nais lamang ni Basilio ay kausapin ng general upang makapagpatayo ng isang akademya na kung saan gagamitin ang wikang Kastila. Ngunit sa kasamang palad ay hindi pa rin ito sumuportahan ng mga pari sa pamahalaan. Ipinaalam din agad ni Basilio sa kanyang mga kamag-aral ang naging desisyon ng pamahalaan, kaya naghanda sila sa isang patimpalak upang maipanawagan ang kanilang mga hinaing hinggil sa edukasyon at nais na pagkapantay-pantay sa mga Pilipino. Si Cabezang Tales ay anak ni Tandang Selo. Isa siyang magsasaka na gumaan at rumangya ang buhay at ang kanyang anak ay si Huli, na kasintahan ni Basilio. Nais niya rin pag-aralin si Huli upang makapantay ng anak niya ang kanyang kasintahan. Ngunit tinaasan sila ng buwis ng gobyerno hanggang siya ay nakapagbayad at inaresto. Natalo rin sa kaso si Cabezang Tales kaya siya ay kinulong ng mga gwardiya dahil siya ay natagpo ang may kutsilyo at may pera. Niyaya muli ni Simon si Basilio na maghimagsik laban sa gobyerno, at plano niya rin magtaguyod ng isang pulutong upang bawiin muli niya ang dalagang na si Maria Clara sa kumbento niyang pinagsisilbihan. Ngunit sa kasamaang palad, namatay din si Maria Clara dahil sa kanyang sakit. At nagkaroon ng pagpupulong ang mga mag-aaral na kung saan nagkaroon ng debate ang bawat isa dahil mahigbigat pa rin ang kanilang pakiramdam hinggil sa hindi pagpatupad ng suporta para sa isang akademyang pagtuturo ng wikang Kastila. Sila ay nagtalumpati ng isang pasinterya na pagmamayari ng isang inchik. Doon nila inilabas ng kanilang sama ng loob ang nagbangayan. Nalaman ito ng pari at kinabukasan mo mga paskil sa mga pader ng eskwelahan, kaya naman pinagbintangan ang mga mag-aaral, kasama rito si Basilio. Labis na lungkot ang kanyang kasintahan na si Huli noong siya ay inakusuhan ng mga pari. At pinilit ni Hermana Bali na kausapin si Huli, si Padre Camorra, na palayain niya si Basilio. Napalaya ng ibang pamilya ang mga mag-aaral maliban kay Basilio. Pinilit kausapin Huli ang pari at hinalay naman ni Padre Camorra si Huli. Ang dahilan ng pagpapakamatay at pagtalo ng binata. At pagtalon ng dalaga sa bintana. At pinagpatuloy pa rin ni Simon ang kanyang plano na maghimagsik laban sa gobyerno. Kaya ang ginawa niya ay makiisa at umanib sa negosyo ni Don Timoteo, ang ama ni Juanito. Iginiit din ni Simon na ipapakasal niya si Paulita kay Juanito upang magkaroon ng koneksyon, kapangyarihan at hindi mahalata na nakipag-alyansya siya kay Don Timoteo. At nakalaya na si Basilio matapos ang 2 buwan sa tulong ni Simon. Kaya naman, nakaisa na rin si Basilio sa paghimagsik na plano ni Simon laban sa pamahalaan ng mga Kastila. Inanyayahan ni Simon ang mga mataas na opisyales at may pwesto sa pamahalaang Kastila. Sinamantala niya ang okasyon upang maisagawa ang paghihimagsik at siya ang nagbigay ng regalo sa isang magarbong lampara. Hindi alam ng lahat na pagpapasabog ang lampara sa bitbit ni Simon. Bukod kay Isagani at Basilio, lingid sa kalaman nila ang plano ni Simon na pasabugin ang lampara sa piging upang mahiganti sa kanila ang binata. Hindi mapakali sa Basilio sa labas, kaya naman aligaga siya. Dumating naman bigla si Isagani at sinabihan niya si Basilio na huwag pumasok sa loob. Lumabas na rin si Simon matapos ibigay ang lampara sa mga opisyales ng gobyerno. Habang umiilaw na ang lampara, pinatataas ang mitya ng Kapitan Heranal kay Padre Irin bilang na lamang ito inagawa ni Isagani at ibinato sa ilog upang hindi ito sumabog pa. Nalaman ng lahat na ito pala ay pampasabog, kaya dali-daling tumakbo si Simon at tumakas papunta kay Padre Florentino. Dahil hindi natapos sa kanyang plano, pagkatapos ng pagtakas ni Simon, kinuwento lahat ni Simon ang kanyang buhay at nagtapat kay Padre Florentino hinggil sa kanyang plano para maghimagsik laban sa gobyerno. Matapos niyang ikiwento ang lahat ng nangyari, ay uminom siya ng lason upang hindi na siya mahuli at mahirapan ng mga gwardya. At doon na rin pumanaw ang binata matapos ito inumin. Matapos ang insidente, ay maraming pinaghinalaan na Pilipino na tulisan, kaya naman kaliwat kanan ang pag-aaresto at iligal na paghuli sa kanila. Kaya inosente o sibilyan ay nadamay sa nangyari. Matapos nito ay pinalaunan ni sila ng mga gwardyang Kastila dahil ang tingin nila ay pare-parehas lamang ang mga Pilipino. Noong namatay si Simon, pumunta si Padre Florentino sa bato na laging inuupan ni Sagani at doon itinapon sa ilog ang mga kayamanan ni Simon. Dinasalan din ni Don Tribucio si Simon upang mamayapa ang kanyang kaluluwa. Nakita ng iilang pari ang pighati at pinagdadaanan ni Simon. Simula nung siya ay bata, kaya naunawaan nila ang galit at nais paghihimagsik nito. Yun lamang po ang buod ng El Filibusterismo ni Dr. Jose Rizal. Ngayon, magpunta naman po tayo sa symbolical o interpretasyon ng mga Pilipino sa iba't ibang tauhan to sa El Filibusterismo. Mula kay Maria Clara. Si Maria Clara Maria Clara, who after suffering untold physical and spiritual abuse for at least 13 years, at last dies, can still be made to symbolize in the Filipino, the friar-dominated culture, which is now ripe for revolution, that there no eventual union between Simon and Maria Clara, not even meeting between the two then parted in 13 years ago. He was not permitted to do so. This is an event symbolical speaking of Rizal's refusal to recognize that the friar-dominated Filipino culture. Senor Fasta is the idealist turned mercenary could be made to represent the portion of the Filipino society who have abandoned their noble social ideals and have become truly self-seeing opportunists, serving only in the interests of those who have hired them. Isagani, a young student who is inspired by high ideals for his culture, but at critical moment apparently and wittingly forgets those idols for selfish reasons, could be made to symbolize the untested and reliable idealism of a segment of the educated Filipino youths of that time. Paulita Gomez, the helpless object of Isagani's affection, a girl who is more free from the fetter of convection than Maria Clara, can be made to represent that the portion of Filipino womanhood still have brick Maria Clara. Basilio, the medical student who, despite the extreme suffering undergone by his family as a result of clerical ferocity and cruelty, refuses to entertain any revolution, though even in the face of rampant social injustice, could be made to symbolize that segment of educated Filipino society which has been so brutalized that has become insensible to social welfare. Placida Pentinente is the young woman who has been disillusioned by the state of affairs he finds himself in as a student, entertained to go to abroad. When shown by Simon some signs of the possible uprising, he becomes frightened that he become not make up his whether to join or not join. Don Custodio, a typical Spanish official in the country, who occupies several positions despite the absence of qualification, believed that any idea that not become from the deserve no consideration. As a character in the Filibusterismo, Rizal portrayed him as one who finds pleasures in developing and feeling inferiority. Cabezang Tales, a victim that land grabbing by the friars, became desperate and joined the outlaws for personal revenge, and he died of fever and found no justice in the court. Huli, innocent-looking and unaffected daughter of Cabezang Tales and sweetheart of Basilio, took her own life because of her love and honor chastity rather than surrender her womanhood to mundane desire for Padre Camorra. And the schoolmaster, resurrected as a rebel for having experimented teaching the Spanish language to young children against the wishes of the Spanish friars. That's the symbolic interpretation of the El Filibusterismo. Now, let's proceed to the message of the El Filibusterismo. that he wrote Dr. Rizal. Dr. Rizal's message in El Filibusterismo was very clear, that present the system of government in the Philippines, through corrupt official dominated by the priors, can lead to the downfall of Spain. This point was stressed by Simon in the novel, when he said, "What is a man to do when he is denied justice? Take the law in his own hands or wait Spain to give him rights." From the foregoing, Rizal was very certain that because of the nature of operation of government, those who are intelligent, generous, hardworking, courageous, and loyal citizens were driven into positions of crime and supervision.
What is reluctant revolutionary and his concept of independence? As already stated, the Filibusterismo is a novel about revolutionary that fate was orchestrated by Simon. Thus in the Filipino, he returned to the Philippines for the purpose of undermining the Spanish regime by encouraging corruption in the government and his wealth and influence, and by formatting economic distress to prod people to take up arms against in the government. Dito, gaya na sinabi ng El Filibusterismo, ay isang nobela tungkol sa isang revolusyon na nabigo ayon sa orkestra ni Simon. Kaya sa mga Pilipino na bumalik sa Pilipinas para sa layuning sirain ang rehimeng Espanyol sa pamamagitan ng paghihikayat at katiwalian sa pamahalaan gamit ang kanyang kayamanan at impluwensya, sa pamamagitan ng pag-udyok, pagkakabalisa sa ekonomiya upang hikayatin ang mga tao na humawak ng armas para labanan ang gobyerno. Rizal's message to the Filipinos will not courageous enough to protest and proclaim their rights be willing to sacrifice and shed of their silence in the space of oppression and tyranny that they don't deserve to be given freedom. Dito, sinasabi na Rizal na dapat magkaroon tayo ng lakas ng loob na magkaprotesta at magpayag ng ating nararamdaman upang makamit natin ang kalayaan. At handa tayo magsakripisyo at magbuhos ng kanilang pananahimik sa harap ng pag-aapi at pananatili nila sa bansa natin. Hindi sila karapat-dapat na bigyan ng kalayaan kasi mali ang kanyang ginagawa sa ating bansa, kaya dapat natin itong labanan. From the foregoing Rizal made it plain clear the Filipinos have to make themselves worthy of freedom before they can become independent. Deserving freedom, however, necessities that need Filipinos to travel following paths, education, exemplary lives, and willingness to sacrifice for one conviction. Dito, sa mga nabanggit na nilinaw ni Rizal, sa mga Pilipino daw ay may kakayahan at karapat-dapat na ang kalayaan sila bago maging malaya. Gayunpaman, nangangailangan ang mga Pilipino na magtalakbay sa mga sumusunod na landas, gaya ng kalsada, edukasyon, ulirang buhay at kahandang magsakripisyo para sa paniniwala ng isang tao at ang ating kalayaan sa mga Espanyol.
Hi everyone, so today we're going to talk about the introduction and background of Noli Me Tangere. Noli Me Tangere is written in Spanish and published in 1887. Jose Rizal's Noli Me Tangere played a crucial role in the political history of the Philippines. Drawing from experience, the conventions of the 19th century novel and the ideals of European liberalism, Rizal offered a devastating critique of a society under Spanish colonial rule. The plot revolves around Crisostomo Ibarra, mixed-race heir of a wealthy clan, returning home after 7 years in Europe and filled with ideas on how to better the lot of his countrymen. Striving for reforms, he is confronted by an abusive ecclesiastical hierarchy and a Spanish civil administration by turns indifferent and cruel. The novel suggests, through plot developments, that meaningful change in this context is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible. The theme of the novel is to promote nationalism and to accept change in ourselves still applies to us today. We must patronize our country by respecting the law, promoting Philippine culture, and realizing the true goal of the country by helping each other towards the improvement of the country. The real purpose of the novel is to defend Filipino people from foreign accusations of foolishness and lack of knowledge, to show how the Filipino people lives during Spanish colonial period and the cries and woes of his countrymen against abusive officials, to discuss what religion and belief can really do to everyday lives, and to expose the cruelties, graft, and corruption of the false government at honestly show the wrongdoings of Filipinos that led to further failure. The first half of Noli Tangere was written in Madrid, Spain, from 1884 to 1885, while Dr. Jose P. Rizal was studying for medicine. While in Germany, Rizal wrote the second half of Noli Tangere from time to time starting February 21, 1887. He was inspired by Uncle Tom's Cabin to write about the inequities in Filipino society, with the Latin title, Touch Me Not, that alludes to a passage in the Bible. The work, published in 1887, explores the oppression of the local people by priests and the government during the era of Spanish colonization.
Noli Me Tangere ay isa sa mga sikat na likha ng ating pambansang bayani na si Rizal, na kung saan ang ibig sabihin nito is touch me not. Pero bago natin umpisahan ito, sino nga ba si Rizal? Si Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realonda ay isang Filipino at polymath. Kapag sinabing polymath, ito yung mga taong malawak ang kanilang kaisipan. Noong mga panahon na sinakop ng mga Espanyol ang ating bansang Pilipinas, at siya ay ang ating pambansang bayani. Pero bakit isinulat ni Rizal ang Noli Me Tangere? Inumpisahan ni Jose Rizal ang pakikipaglaban sa mga dayuhang Espanyol na noon ay sumakop sa Pilipinas sa pamamagitan ng kanyang panulat. Ginamit niya ang kanyang talino at pagkamalikhain upang makasulat ng isang nobelang magpapakita ng baluktot na paghahari ng mga Espanyol sa bansa. At yun ay ang Noli Me Tangere. Pero paano nga ba ito naka-epekto sa ating mga Pilipino? Ang epekto nito sa imahe ng bansa ay nakakadulot ng positibong motibasyon lalo na sa mga kapwa Pilipino na nasa ibang bansa. Noong nagpunta si Rizal sa Madrid upang mag-aral ng medisina ay nakilala siya ng mga Pilipinong mag-aaral sa Universidad ng Madrid na mga determinadong magtrabaho para sa ikauunlad ng Pilipinas. Si Rizal sa kanyang edukasyon at katalinuhan mula sa buong mundo ay gusto ng reforma at pantay na pagtrato mula sa Espanya. Ito ay isa sa dahilan kung bakit kilala ang mga Pilipino bilang demokratiko o gusto ng isang maayos at malayang pamamahala. At doon po natatapos ang ating usapin tungkol sa Noli Me Tangere. Maraming salamat po.
Sa mga sandali namang ito, atin namang tatalakayin ang ilang sikat na linya mula sa libro ni Rizal na Noli Me Tangere. Unang narito ay ang karunungan ay para sa tao. Ngunit huwag mong lilimuting iya'y matatamo ng mga may puso lamang. Ito ay nagmula kay Gurong Pari, Kabanata 8. Isa ito sa mga pangaral na narinig ni Crisostomo Ibarra mula sa kanyang guro. Pangalawa, mahal ko ang aking bayan, pagkat utang ko rito at magiging utang pa ang aking kaligayahan. Ito naman ay nagmula kay Crisostomo Ibarra, Kabanata 49. Sinabi niya rito habang sila ay nagtatalo ni Elias, habang siya ay kinukumbinse nito na sumama sa kanya. Pangatlo, tunay pong hindi ako maaaring umibig ni lumigaya sa sariling bayan, ngunit nakahanda akong magtiis at mamatay dito. Hangad ko na ang lahat ng ilang bayan ay maging kasawian ko rin. Ito ay nagmula kay Elias, Kabanata 61. Sa mga sandaling ito, si Ibarra ay nagpapaalam kay Maria Clara sapagkat sila ay lilisan. Sa kadahilanang sila tumakas si Ibarra sa kulungan. Pang-apat, dapat bigyang dangal ang isang tao habang buhay pa kaysa kung patay na. Ito naman ay nagmula kay Pilosopo Tasio. Isa ito sa mga talinghaga na binikas ni Pilosopo Tasio.